Welcome back to my channel. Got a bit of a different video today. I put a poll on my Instagram asking what video everyone wanted to see next, and this is the one that won. So this video will be all about the year-long project that I have decided to do this year. I've seen temperature blankets, I've seen mood blankets, I've seen lots of different blankets. So instead of a temperature blanket, because I live in Arizona where the temperature really does not fluctuate much, I wanted something that would be more fun and that I would have a better chance of actually following through with. Also, I did attempt a temperature blanket last year. I think this is all that I have to show for that. I think I made it about 6 weeks in, so didn't do great on that front, but this feels more manageable for me, and I think I actually have a good chance of finishing it. If you've been following me for a while now, you probably know if I'm not crocheting, I'm reading, or most of the time I'm probably doing both. So for this year's project, instead of doing a temperature blanket or a mood blanket or any of those, I'm going to be tracking the books I read. I have seen people do similar things to this where they have done a different row for the different ratings of the books that they've read, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, all of a different color. I've seen people do each genre gets a different color, which that was the one I was leaning towards. However, I know myself, and I know that 90% of the books that I read are fantasy and romance, so my blanket would be pretty much just 2 colors. So with that in mind, I decided I'm going to do my book tracking blanket following all of the romance books that I read this year, because even the fantasy books that I read have some element of romance in them. So instead of tracking the genre or the rating or anything like that, I'm going to be doing the subgenres within the romance category. So each romance subgenre will have a different color, and then for each book that I read within that subgenre, I will do a row or 2 on a blanket. Most of the subgenres that I picked were based on books that I read last year, books that I am anticipating for this year, and series that I know I want to try and read this year. So, with that being said, I made a little key. These are all of the genres that I am going to be tracking. Got contemporary, holiday, YA, new adult, fantasy, historical or Regency, paranormal, sports, dystopian, dark, and mystery or suspense. If a new genre comes up, I will add it, and I can add another color to my chart. If you have any recommendations of genres I should add, leave them in the comments below. And here are the yarn colors that I chose to go along with those. I chose a color palette that will fit with my room, so it's a lot of pinks and greens and tans. So yeah, I will go through them one by one. For some of these yarns, I do not have the exact yarn that I will be using yet. I placed a Joann's order, it is on its way, so I will be showing a yarn that I have that is a similar color, but I wanted to switch up the textures on some of the yarns, which you will see. So I know that I mostly read contemporary and fantasy romance, so I wanted those colors to be more neutral so that if they make up the majority of my blanket, it's not too much of any one color. And if you want to know any of the yarns that I'm using, just let me know in the comments and I will let you know. So for contemporary romance, I am using this ivory color. I think it'll be a nice base, and I do anticipate that I will be using this a lot. Since fantasy is the other one that I know I will be using a lot, I decided to go with this light pink blush color. For holiday romances, I'm going with a red. For young adult YA romances, I am using this darker pink. For new adult, I am using this slightly lighter pink. For historical / Regency, I will be using more of a tan color. For paranormal romance, I will be using this gold color. For sports romance, I'm using this dark green color. For dystopian, I'm using this sage green. For dark romance, it had to be black. This is a bit of a heathered black though. And for mystery / suspense, I will be using this silvery gray color. So here are all of the yarns I will be using for this project. I'm a big mood reader, so I do jump between genres and books very frequently. I hardly ever am just reading one book from start to finish. There's usually always a pile of TBRs all around my room. So right now, here are just a few of the physical books that I am reading. Got Crescent City and Court of Silver Flames. I'm trying to make it through my SJM reread before January 30th, if you know, you know. And I have Kiss the Sky by Krista and Becca Ritchie. These are all actually rereads. I decided to start off the year with some comfort reads. I also have a few ebooks that I'm reading right now. I have Dungeons and Drama and Mile High by Liz Tomford. So I'm thinking at the end of every month, I will probably do a wrap-up video of all of the books that I read that month. I'll let you know what I thought of them, what I rate them, while I crochet the rows into my blanket. I decided that I wanted to follow a pattern for this blanket so that it was more of a variety in color and stitches. So I went with the Stripes and Colors blanket pattern by Crochet Objet. I will link the pattern in the description down below. I was kind of drawn to this one because I like how many color changes there were on her blanket, and mine will also be changing color about every row. I really liked how this one looked, and I think it'll be great for this. So in 2023, I read 58 books. For this project, I'm probably going to need about 150 rows, and while I am optimistic about my reading goal this year, I do not think I am going to make it to 150 books. So what I'm going to be doing is I am going to be deciding the amount of rows that I do for one book based on its pages. I don't have an exact number for how I'm going to do this, but I figure for most normal romance books, like this one, which is about 400 pages, I would do about 2 rows for a normal romance book. However, I do end up reading a lot of very thick fantasy books, so for something like this, I will probably give myself about 3 rows because this feels equivalent to like 3 books in my brain. So on that same thought, if I read a novella or a very short book, I will probably only give it 1 row. I haven't fully decided how I'm going to break this down yet, but if I'm reading a book that has 2 different subgenres, I might change up the color for the 2 rows that I give that book. Like, I know I have the off-campus books on my TBR for this year, and since those are technically hockey romance, they would fall under sports, but they also take place at college, so they could be new adult as well. So if I'm doing 2 rows for each of those books, I could do a sports row and a new adult row. Just an idea. Haven't really figured out if I'm doing it that way or not yet. Help me in the comments. You can leave a comment on what you think I should do. So I have my handy dandy key for all of my yarns that I'm sure I will be referencing a lot. And on the back, I have all of my different colors of yarn with the brand that they are so that I know what yarn they are if I need to get more. I just made this on Canva, printed it out, used a hole puncher to add the holes, and then added my yarn to it. So I actually already did finish Crescent City House of Earth and Blood this year, so I have already begun my blanket. It's a fantasy book, so we've got the light pink going, and I will definitely be sure to include starting this blanket in my wrap-up video at the end of January, along with the other books that I end up finishing in January. Let me know in the comments what you think of this year-long project. If you want more information about it and how I'm breaking things down, let me know. Be sure to subscribe to my channel so that you see my monthly progress videos. Follow along on social media too. They're all linked in the description below. I will also be sharing progress on this blanket on there. Be sure to leave romance book recommendations in the comments below so that I can add more books to my TBR and get my reading goal up for 2024. As always, thanks for watching, and I will see you all at the end of January for my first romance reading blanket wrap-up video. Do we think I can pick all of these yarns up? I don't know. We're gonna try. Here is my color palette of yarn, and there it all goes.